And, of course, every game counts from here on out for the 76ers. Just 9 games remaining on the regular season schedule in Cleveland tonight to begin a 2-game road trip starting with the Cavs. Welcome to the Sixers pregame, PHLY Sixers pregame show, live from Deke's Barbecue here on the road as we hang out. Deke's on Beverly and Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck back from vacation. I'm Devon Givens.
Finally.
And he stopped slacking finally to get this thing started. We are about 25 or so minutes away from tip-off in Cleveland. And, man, this is a big one. We are presented today as we hang out with you with our great friends, presented by our good friends from Coors Light. Yes, Coors Light is always welcome again into the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by Coors Light as Kyle takes a sip.
Ice cold.
Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY Sixers to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. Now, we have a lot to get into from Joel Embiid, some key matchups. Nick Nurse and Kelly Oubre went off after that Clippers loss by 1 point on Wednesday. We'll get Kyle's thoughts on that as I look to my right in the television. Has Kelly Oubre on the screen. We'll give our predictions a little bit later on as well. But Kyle, first we start with you, man. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm just thankful that I didn't get sunburnt while in the Dominican. I was slightly concerned I'd come back and I'd have like a giant red splotch across my forehead. So thank you to SPF 50 and a good amount of time under umbrellas and in the shade for that. Good to see you guys. Thank you, Derek, for taking up my position in the locker room filming things. I know he was very proud of the quality of audio that he got for the Kelly Oubre videos and all that. So wanted to shout him out, and certainly Rich for filling in this week. But at least seemed like you guys had an interesting week while I was gone. They got the win against the Clippers. They probably should have had 2 wins against the Clippers this week, and that was unfortunate. It was really nice, and I love being plugged in, locked in step with everything that's going on. Now I know how Devon felt for 3 months and how nice it is to just disconnect from everything and do absolutely nothing. And I didn't even have to rehab an Achilles, so it was, I had a lot more freedom of movement during my free time.
All right, well, I'm glad you had a blast. We had a blast for at least the Sunday game where they beat the Clippers. As you come back, and again, we have prizes that we're giving away. We're giving away a pair of tickets. If you come on out, hang out with us here. We'll be here for this pregame, watching the game, so you can watch along with us, and certainly post-game here. We're giving away a pair of tickets. There are only a few games remaining on the schedule, so come on by. Again, register to get those tickets. Only a few regular season games remaining, so we'd like for you to win. And there's
plenty of great gear here from Coors Light as well.
Here? We have a cooler here on the table.
Jackets, bags, hats, cups. We have Coors Light socks. There's all kinds of stuff here, so make sure you come out.
So come on out. It's a Friday. The Phillies lost, disappointingly. Come on by, get it on, get all your frustration out. Come by, get some Coors Light to get that off your chest a little bit, and we'll watch some basketball with you. Derek, though, we have a big one here. A little bit of an update too, just in the sense of the Sixers decide to tease everybody with a Joel Embiid photo on their Twitter account of him working out during practice over, I believe it was Mo Bamba or Paul Reed, one of the big guys that he was shooting the basketball over. And it just kind of gave everybody a sense of, all right, there are only 9 games left. We said he'll be back soon, and they put this on their official account. So first thing you thought of when you did see the big fella out there on the floor in that photo?
Oh, thank goodness. That was the first thing that ran through my head. Look, we got to watch this team. We got to talk about this team. It is so much more interesting when Joel Embiid is on the floor.
Yeah.
And it does look like, when they went 4 weeks, 5 weeks without giving an update, we all went like, why are they doing that? Not that necessarily means that anything is going wrong, but that it's just weird. Stop being weird so we can get back to a normal timeline. Well, it's looking like they're, 7 weeks out right now? It's looking like it's going to fall within that 6 to 8 week timeline that we all talked about going forward. The fact that nothing seems like it is wrong is such a relief, because there is no, as we've seen over the last 7 weeks, this team has no chance without him. If you bring him back in, it changes everything. And my first thought when I saw that, thank goodness.
And I will say, it's a rare piece of injury good news that they've gotten, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we've been so close to Robert Covington for a month, and with DeAnthony Melton, who here's another crazy fact. I don't know if this has come up on the show for you guys. Do you know he's played more games this season than Joel Embiid has?
I did not know that.
Like that in my mind just doesn't compute because we've been thinking about him, talking about him as not a lost cause, but certainly a guy who's been struggling for quite a long time now with health issues. So no good news with those two. So to get the Joel Embiid, like, yeah, he's about to play. Yeah, he's on the road trip. All the social media posts from the official team accounts, it's like, all right, man, thank God, because number one, it'll make them better. Number two, makes our jobs a lot more fun
100%.
to talk about. It's fun for the fans. It's fun for us. I'm very excited. If you can tell, I'm rejuvenated after some time away. Joel's going to take me even further up the slope, I think.
I mean, as Doc Rivers said, we all need mid-season trips to Cabo. So I think Devon and I need to...
Not quite Cabo. Cabo's a little further. I didn't want to go on that much of a plane ride.
Well, you also you just slipped it in there, too, that the two-game trip here against Cleveland on tonight, and on Sunday they have the Toronto Raptors in Toronto. He's traveled with the team for this one for the first time since they've been on the road trip. A short road trip, not very far, but he did travel. So, but the important part is he was able to get on the plane, travel with them, instead of being back here working out with Drew Hanlon or any other Sixers coaches and development people to get things right for him to return. That's also another important note along the way. He is ruled out already for tonight, but that doesn't mean that things don't look right for him by the time we get there on Sunday and potentially against his
one of his nemesis.
Yeah, his thing with the Toronto people out there as a nemesis. What a return it would be against the Toronto Raptors. Nick Nurse also going back there for a second time.
Absolutely. And to your point, Devon, I think here's what I would say to the fans. If there wasn't a chance of him playing, if they thought his best path to get closer to playing necessitated staying back in Philadelphia, he would still be in Philadelphia. He would not be in Cleveland for this road trip. So clearly they feel good about where he's at, and they're thinking now it's to the point where he didn't go through the specific scout game plan for Cleveland today when they went through that at shoot-around, but he's close enough to be like, hey, if he wakes up on Sunday feeling good and he's ready to play Toronto, you put him through the scout, you put him through his pregame paces, maybe he can play. So being that close is great for him. It's great for us. It's great for everybody. So I don't know that he's going to play Sunday. Certainly, I just dropped off a plane and I'm playing catch up for the most part. But he's very, very close, and that's worth being excited about.
What would you make of it, Derek? Just being on the trip in general, since he has yet to travel with them on a trip.
Yeah, well, I mean, it means that not only is it possible he might play, but at the very least, he can go out there, maybe go through a walkthrough on Sunday if he doesn't play, get a little practice, 5-on-5, 4-on-4, and you can't do that if you're sitting back here in Philadelphia. So it signifies that if he's not going to play, he's at least getting very close to the point where you're worried about that kind of conditioning aspect, getting back in the flow of the game. It seems like pretty much every hurdle has been cleared, and we're at the final hurdle or maybe final two hurdles, whatever that happens to be. But it just means we're getting close.
Yeah, and again, it may not mean Toronto. It could be Oklahoma City on Tuesday. At that point, there will be, 7 games remaining? And we even talked about it overall where there might be a five-game situation where you come back. But it looks like that might be a little bit sooner. We're just guessing, again, things look good. And we're just saying things, but we don't know for sure.
That's all we do. We just say things.
We just say things right here. But yeah.
What's the saying from Game of Thrones? I drink and I know things.
That'll be us
I
tonight.
drink and I say things. How about that? I feel like that's my catchphrase.
Well, again, Toronto would be one thing. Oklahoma City at home would be another. It would be a good tune-up for them against the Toronto Raptors to come back on Tuesday to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. First time in front of the home fans.
That's a little more than a tune-up.
Oh, yeah,
they're pretty good.
Yeah. So that will be good. And if he was able to come back for the Raptors game and then get back on Tuesday against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So good stuff there. Nothing bad to report, especially when my guys here, when they don't say anything to Sixers and they go off because we reached this checkpoint, we don't hear anything. The frustrations, of course, can boil over, and it's not just them. It's the fans as well, because there have been plenty in the chat over the course of these last few weeks saying, he's not coming back. They're not saying anything. He's not coming back. Well, we will see.
Our guy Money Marr has been saying he's not coming back and they're tanking.
I was just going to give Devon props for not mentioning the troll's name and then Kyle went in there. That being said, I get it. On the last show, I quote unquote shouted him out as well. So we all slipped, but good job, Devon. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So
good job by you too.
Any thoughts, fellas, on Kelly Oubre and Nick Nurse getting fined today?
$50,000 apiece.
I'm just glad he got his money's worth. If you're going to lose 50 large, get your money's worth. Kelly certainly did. I don't know exactly what the rules are. Kyle and I were talking about it earlier. He seems like he has a better grasp of it, but there's a limit to how much you can get fined without the Players Association getting involved and whatnot. So if you're going to reach that limit, have at it, man.
Yeah, so my understanding of the fines is that once you, for an in-game event, unless you get suspended for it, and that's a whole completely different bag of worms than we're talking about here, you can go up to 50K, and once you cross the 50K threshold, then the union can actually file a grievance. So we had we had discussed it, as Derek said earlier, and Derek was like, actually, I think he helped himself with his apology. And my take on it is they fined him every dollar they could without having to deal with any blowback from the Players Association. So,
well, he went 6 times with the word, so 6 times. So he earned it.
And all the pointing,
and it wasn't even point. It was the 4 fingers. He went right here and here and here. Yeah,
I'll give a little credit to, I think it was Windy on Hoop Collective this week. He compared it to Scarface in Half Baked when he quits his fast food job and he goes, I can't curse him on a live location. F you,
you're cool.
F you, and F you, I'm out. And that was the Kelly Oubre. But
when we were doing, you guys obviously saw, of course, the post game, and Rich says, as he saw it coming through on Twitter, and Bree will attest to this.
It's definitely an moment
and
for
he
sure.
Said, is it okay if I say this? And I saw it. I'm like, well, you're only quoting him. You're not saying it. You're just quoting him.
Also, when we're not on location, we drop F-bombs all the time. So, yes, Rich, have at it.
He was more concerned about the B word, just saying it the way that he, So, but he went at it. And what do you feel about Nurse? Nurse is always on the edge anyway on the sideline. He doesn't get enough text probably with the way he reacts to the officials.
I would love for him to get more text,
listen.
Cross that line, baby.
I'm there with that, too. Hey, get a tech. Help your team out there real fast. But he got also hit with 50K. Kelly seemed worse because it was more animated. Was Nick Nurse? Nurse may have said things that we just don't know where it wasn't as animated as Kelly's.
It kind of feels like you're an accomplice to the real crime. Like I don't think he was the getaway driver. He was the guy in the back seat maybe, or maybe a little. He's somewhere between the getaway driver and the guy in the back seat. He was involved in the planning stages of a robbery. Sure. But Kelly Oubre was the gunman and the driver. So I don't.
And the problem with Kelly is, first of all, he flipped him the bird to start it off with while he was sitting down. It was a great move, but you're going to get a fine every time.
An obscene gesture or something like that.
But also, he pointed at him, and he said so few words that it was very easy to lip read. He was not getting away with that one. There was no chance.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts? We gave our thoughts. What were your thoughts on the final play itself?
So, listen, I didn't feel as strongly as a lot of people did about the foul call. Now, that being said, they called similar fouls down the stretch for the same thing. So my thing with officiating is always consistency. You want to call a tight whistle? I don't like that, but that's fine as long as you're applying the rules consistently. The issue I think that crew ran into with Kelly is that you could argue Kawhi got one, maybe even 2 of those calls within the 2 minutes that had led up to that moment. And so to not give Kelly that call on the final play of the game, I understand why he was mad. Like, if that had happened to me, having played through that game, I think Kelly even got called for one of those fouls on Kawhi, if I'm remembering correctly.
For the
right?
end one. Yeah.
And it was a very similar situation where he's hitting him in the body. And so I get it.
And remember, he was also furious because of the play before where Kawhi met him at the rim.
Yes. So I understand it had been building up, and then to have it happen in a similar fashion as other calls that had already been made, the anger is 100% justified. Kelly is honestly a bigger man than I am, that he walked it back in the locker room, because if I had, said the B word 6 times and reamed out the officials during a game, and then you gave me an opportunity to speak to the press afterward, I would have been like, here's what I really think of those MFers, and really just like laid it on.
Keep going.
I probably would have gotten like a $250,000 fine at that point for escalating it in the post game. So I give him a little credit for that, but I absolutely understand the frustration. I never know how this is going to have an impact down the road, right? Like certain guys develop reputations and then they get, I would say, quicker texts, more fouls called on them. I don't think Kelly is enough of a repeat offender with this kind of stuff that it'll impact him. And I think the fact that he immediately apologized will probably put that to rest. So I think it's something that it's good for us right now. It's good for some views on social media and all that, but I think it'll probably blow over fairly quickly.
That being said, he did leave it. I don't think it would be a league-wide thing, but for those 3 individuals...
Oh, they won't forget it.
To bring up their mother and their grandmother might have been a good way to make sure that they remember you. Yeah.
And even just flipping the bird at somebody,
I mean, I do it to you all the time, but that's fine.
But that's kind of the dynamic.
Adjacent,
friend adjacent. That's a good way to put it.
We have a super chat here from You a Fraud. Checking in like he did on Wednesday post game with Rich and myself. Says, hit the like button. It's free. And it also helps the channel grow. You a Fraud. Thank you again for helping us out. Again, we're live from Deke's Barbecue here on Beverly, where we are giving away a pair of tickets to an upcoming home game before the playoffs.
$3 Coors Lights, by the way.
$3 Coors Lights. A bunch of Philadelphia 76ers gear here right in front of us that we'll also be auctioning off here throughout the show. I see some PHLY gear as well, some T-shirts, some hats on the table. So come on through and sign up for some of these gifts. It's a Friday night. What the heck are you doing?
Also, and I think this is an underrated selling point, you get to yell at Vince in person about his Embiid takes.
Yes, because Embiid, if he is coming back very soon, which we think, you can talk to Vince about it and get your thoughts off.
I love it when he's here and not watching or listening because we can say whatever he wants. He won't notice for a long time.
Oh, man. All right, well, we also have to talk about some matchups here for tonight because the Sixers have won the last 2 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 1 on the road, 1 at home. They've beaten them with Donovan Mitchell on the floor, with Evan Mobley on the floor, Darius Garland on the floor, and 2 without Joel Embiid. They actually lost the game with Joel Embiid out there on the floor. So, with that being said, we know that Cleveland is up there in the standings over the Sixers in the top 3. They're fighting for that top 3, top 4 spot there. The Sixers are still hoping upon hope to get the 6th seed, but most likely right now it appears to be 7 or the 8th seed. With that, they've had success against this basketball team. They've done some good things. Buddy Hield, one of those games, again, where he first got here, playing well against them. They're not afraid of this team, even with Donovan Mitchell on the floor. They've had their number, and we're coming off a good Buddy Hield game, a much-needed one on Wednesday night. So, Derek, I'll start with you. What do you think of this matchup here tonight? We keep saying it. They need any win that they can get. They dropped one on Wednesday, but again, an important one here in the Eastern Conference against a team they've had success against.
Yeah, and it's a team they've had success against. It's a team where, as of us recording this or doing the show, I don't know if we have a definitive word about Mitchell.
Mitchell is in.
He is in. Okay.
He's in.
Because he had missed 13 in the last 15 games.
Yeah.
They had lost 4 of the last 5. He obviously makes a big difference. No idea if he will be rusty or limited in any way, but that is big. You know, this is a team that before these last 2 matchups, you said, well, I don't know how well they match up against the Cavs because they are so perimeter focused and so guard focused, and the Sixers don't really have all that many perimeter defenders on the squad, especially with Melton out. But they have played them very well.
Yeah.
We will see. You're obviously going to need another big performance from Buddy if you want a chance. On paper, without Joel Embiid, this seems like a tough matchup for them, but they have acquitted themselves well in 2 of these quote-unquote tough matchups.
Yeah, so really it comes down to me, how do you deal with the Garland-Mitchell combo? Because I feel like we've gone into a lot of these games thinking, oh, the Cavs will kill them on the glass. They have Mobley and Allen, et cetera, et cetera. And the Sixers have dealt with the bigs reasonably well, I would say, when you consider how light they are there, and I would say how inflexible they are. Like, you can't play Paul and Mo together. Like, that's just not a thing you can do. So
in most cases, it might be literally inflexible.
He played pretty well the other night. I don't want to give Mo too much flack right now. So I'm interested to see how they defend Garland and Mitchell. Certainly, Tyrese's ascent defensively helps. And, building off what we were talking about with Joel earlier, how he changes everything, blah, 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 blah. One of the only good things about him missing this time, I feel like they have finally established a defensive identity. They finally look like a team that wants to be and is about the right things there. Like to get into these dogfights one dogfight with the Clippers seemed like they won the other one fairly comfortably. But to be able to win games off the strength of your defense when your offense is frankly not very good right now, that gives me a little bit of hope that between Batum and Oubre and some of these other guys, they'll be able to put out fires, create some turnovers, get out on the break. And that's the big thing. This team needs to force turnovers because in the half court against Cleveland, unless you shoot the lights out, you're going to have a ton of problems.
The game in Cleveland where they won, and Buddy Hield had the 24 points, campaign 15 off the bench. Donovan Mitchell had 36 and 6 assists, where Darius Garland had 21 and 9 assists, and that Sixers win 123-121. The next one at home, I believe that was the one that we were at, right, for the watch party, with the folks there at the center on that Friday night. They won 104-97. Maxey had 24, and that when Jared Allen had 24. But as far as the backcourt goes, Darius Garland was the only one that played. Mitchell did not play. Garland finished with 20 and 9 in that particular one. So to your point, they've had success in the backcourt. They've had success, so they have to slow them down.
Yeah, because look, I think Jared Allen's a very good player. I think Evan Mobley's a good ascending player, but they're not the guys that you put at the top of the scouting report. No. They're guys who score mostly based on what is created for them. I think that's probably been the big disappointment, frankly, for Evan Mobley is that there were people when he came into the league like, oh, this guy might be Kevin Garnett.
Yep.
And while defensively he's been very, very good, I think the self-creation stuff and, frankly, his jumper have not been anywhere near as good as they need to be for him to be a foundational level player for Cleveland. So I'm not worried about those guys, really. If they go out there and play really well and beat them, so be it. But you have to slow down Mitchell, and you have to stop Garland from being a playmaker. Like if he can go off, I think you can live with that. Where you get into trouble is when you have to throw extra bodies at him, and he's getting 10, 15 assists in a game.
Yeah, spraying the ball, Max Strus around the perimeter, George Niang knocking down shots as well. Those types of things, definitely have to pay attention to that. Anybody who you're focused on, Maxey, of course, you already mentioned, needs to have another big game. Anyone else that you have your eyes zeroed on? We mentioned Buddy Hield. Anyone else that you would look to, both offensively and defensively, to get this third win and, again, win the season series? It may not help with going to they're 5 games back, so it's not going to help, but just looking to win this series.
I mean, I think it's Oubre. Like, Oubre is the biggest swing piece.
Can I just point out that we're talking about key players? We brought up Buddy Hield and Kelly Oubre, and their $40 million man. We're like, I have no idea what to expect.
Like,
I'm not saying you're wrong. Yeah, I'm just saying it's freaking wild.
It's just the reality of the situation. Like, Kelly, sometimes negatively, but oftentimes lately, in a great way, takes control of games. Like, takes control of stretches of games. And frankly, he has done it in ways that have surprised me, having watched Kelly for years and years on other teams. Like, one of the things that stood out about that Clippers game on Wednesday, even though they lost, I thought he made some great passing reads, like extra passes on the perimeter, attacking the rim, seeing an opportunity, kicking the ball out. Like, he's making more and more and more and more of those plays as the season wears on. And so, like, he's someone who's going to have the ball a lot. He's someone, his teammates trust him, and as he has shown increased trust and a willingness to move the ball, he just becomes a more important player than Tobias Harris by default. And one thing I was really happy about watching the national broadcast from the other night, I don't know her name, who was doing color commentary.
Right.
There was a moment in the fourth quarter where Tyrese Maxey swung the ball to Tobias after getting trapped. Tobias has an open three.
On the wing, left wing, right?
And then he kicked it to Buddy Hield despite having that open shot.
He had to chuck
and the broadcast immediately called out that Tyrese, 1, reacted, but 2, more importantly, that Tobias has to take that shot. And so I'm glad that people are starting to see what we're seeing and have talked about over and over and over again on this show. So look, when they have that version of Tobias, by default, Kelly is the guy who's going to have to step up, because I don't believe in Tobias right now, and so I choose to put my eggs in the Kelly Oubre basket.
Well, look, if you are Terrell Harris and you're upset about that broadcast, don't worry. The next Stan Van Gundy game, he will sing his praises.
Hey, Tuesday on TNT, that could be a Stan Van game.
Oh, man, yeah, that shot was – he had that one. That's a NBA I'm open look. You have to get that one off. and get that shot going. And she even, as you said, she mentioned it, the closeout was good, but he was still far enough away to get that shot off in that particular game. So this one is important tonight against these guys in Cleveland, so we'll see what they do tonight. Indiana is taking on the Los Angeles Lakers right now at home. So we'll see where things go with that one. Chicago is taking on the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn, and the Miami Heat are hosting the Portland Trailblazers in Miami.
Oh, that's a free W for Miami if there ever was one.
Yeah, so we bring that up because the Sixers are a half game back of the Miami Heat, and they are two and a half back right now of the Indiana Pacers, and 4 games up on the Chicago Bulls. So that's why it's certainly important for the Sixers to get the job done. All right, Derek, prediction time, man. What are you looking at?
The last time we did one of these live shows, I predicted a loss. They came out with a win. I'm going with the loss. I'm going with the exact same score, 117 to 104 Cavs.
Kyle, what do you got?
I'm going to pick the Sixers, man. I kind of feel like they've had Cleveland's number. So I feel like every pregame show I say the Sixers are going to lose. And they've lost a decent amount of ball. That's true. We've definitely had some that they've won. I'm going to take the Sixers by 6 points, let's say.
I think they fall in a close one, 5. I think they fall in the end by 5. If Kelly Oubre, though, has one of those big games because he's ticked off about how he didn't get the calls and having to cough up $50,000 and earning it, I think they fall, though, by 5 in this close
one. Let me tell you, if the Sixers pull this one out, I'm going to give you guys the Ricky Council and say for all the doubters and the non-believers, mostly the 2 people at the table with me.
Well, we appreciate all the believers of our show, our podcast. We got our good buddy Valhos here in the spot and a few others that we've seen so far. We hope that you can come through, watch the game with us, get some grub, get your $3 Coors Light, and again, qualify for some of our cool prizes that we're giving away, including a pair of tickets to one of the final regular season games. We're live at Deke's here on Berkeley. Come stop by. We'll have post game when we get back. We thank all of you for checking in. Al, I see you in the chat. Everyone else, we really appreciate it. Let's see what happens.
You'll get your shout-outs later. I promise you that. But you'll definitely get a shout-out if you come out and hang out at Deke's.
So, again, this pregame show has been presented by Coors Light. $3 Coors Lights when you hang out with us here at Deke's Barbecue. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you post-game. For Derek, Kyle, and Brianna, I'm Devon. We'll see you after the game.
We all silly like the mayor.